Welcome to the Non-Wing Worldwide Podcast, hosted by Drake York.
We go to the infield to Drake York.
Thanks a lot, Chip.
This is the Non-Wing Worldwide Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this edition of Non-Wing Worldwide. Today, I have current AMSOIL USAC National Sprint Car points leader Emerson Axsom on the show. Emerson, how you doing today?
Not too bad. Pretty good. Just excited to be on the podcast and, excited to hopefully get to racing this weekend and see how it goes.
Absolutely. You're the first person that's happy to be on here. We didn't have to force you too badly, so it all worked out. Emerson, like I do with everybody, I want to start out at the beginning of not only your racing career, but at the beginning of your life. What's the earliest memories you have of racing in general?
Yeah, so my dad, he used to race. He ran modifieds and he only ran pavement stuff. So he ran pavement modifieds at IRP and Winchester and some other places like that. But yeah, my earliest memories are for sure at IRP, and I think it was O'Reilly or something back then. But yeah, just really going and watching my dad run pavement stuff, and he got me a go-kart, and from there it was kind of history. But obviously there's a lot more detail, but yeah, those are kind of my earliest memories going to watch.
Okay, so what do you remember specifically about your dad racing? I was talking to you at Wilmot. You were giving him a bunch of crap for not winning. So were you like the driver coach when you were a kid? Like, what do you remember about racing with your dad?
Not a whole lot whenever I was going to watch. Obviously I was really young, and honestly the most clear memory I have is my uncle. So they gave me a headset to listen to my uncle spot my dad, and the radio's messing up. So my uncle was like, "That's why you don't give a 3-year-old a spotter or a headset, bud." Like, I remember him saying that vividly, and I was so mad. But yeah, I don't remember much more except that I found some old clips, but to see if it would even ring a bell. But I mean, I was so young, I don't remember anything really.
And you mentioned your dad was mostly a pavement guy, made a couple starts with Nolan Racing on the pavement in Silver Crown, but you're mostly known as a dirt racer. So where does the interest for you, where does that come from in dirt?
Yeah, I think I think my dad thinks dirt sprint cars are cool. He just he would probably do it just as much as he did his pavement stuff. He just never really pursued it, and he kind of always ran on his own funding, and he just got into the pavement stuff when he first started, and I think it just made more sense to kind of stay with it and keep pursuing that rather than going and branching off and running some dirt stuff.
You started off in the quarter midget ranks, quite successful in that. But when you were a little boy, were you one of those kids that was begging and pleading your dad to get you a race car? Or were you one of those kids that got the racing bug a little bit later than most?
I mean, it was pretty young, but it was later. I feel like I got into a car really early. I think I got in when I was like 4 or 5. But I just made laps. So at our shop, my dad was running a shop. There was a church building next to it. I would go over there, and whenever church was out, I would run laps around it and just drive around the building. One time I spun out and I hit the building pretty good, but yeah, I don't know. Other than that, like, I don't really remember much racing at a young age. Like, Pat Sullivan interviewed my dad, or did an article about me, and kind of interviewed my dad. And I guess my dad had said that my first race, I was in a hot chute and said I didn't want to run because I didn't have a chance to win or something. But so we were buckling in and we loaded up and left, I guess. I don't know. But yeah, I read that, but once I got to racing at the real racetrack, I didn't really like it, and then I won, and from there it was over. I had the bug, and that's pretty much all I want to do. And I think part of it at first, I didn't really have any friends there, so it was just such a young kid, you go to the racetrack for friends. You go there because it's fun, and then you get to drive a race car, so that's even more fun. So I think as a young kid, I didn't really know what I was doing in the race car, and I didn't have any friends, so it was tough to want to go. But once I won and made some friends, it was hard to keep me away.
You talked about your dad, and hearing you say that you didn't want to go on the track and your dad loading up is about the most Joe Axsom thing I've ever heard. And not a lot of
Yeah.
people in the dirt circles know about your dad, Joe, and we call you Little Joe, or at least Kirk Spridgen does. So just tell us a little bit about your dad, because he's quite the character.
Yeah, he's pretty cutthroat. I don't know. He's just really hard. I don't know much about his childhood, but he acts like he had it really hard. So yeah,
He does.
he's just hard. That's all kind of there is to it. And if we're not there to win, then there's no reason to be there. And you know, I think at Lawrenceburg we were running pretty bad at midget week, and he just said it was a waste of time and we should have never been there. So he's just pretty cutthroat and wants to win, but I honestly, I like that because, I want to win just as bad as he does, and he wants to win just as bad as I do. So, usually when you have like that much passion for something, usually goes well. And yeah, well, so Tyler from Flow, he put a GoPro on at Port City, and me and my dad, after the GoPro was still rolling, and after the race, I think I ran second. Me and my dad were talking, and Tyler came up to me the next day and he's like, "Do you guys always yell at each other?" I was like, "We're just talking loudly. Like, it's just passion. Like, we just want to win. Like, we're not yelling at each other. We're just trying to win."
And it's interesting to hear you say that your dad's a very hard person. And I can think back to at least 2 or 3 post-race interviews where you were either close to the win or something happened the final couple of laps that cost you the race, and you're just so dejected in victory lane. Does your dad's personality, does that kind of rub off on you on those moments?
I mean, yeah, whenever, he kind of has taught me that we're always there to win. And, obviously second and, you can be happy about it, but you can be glad that you're running good and the speed's there. Usually that's what we're happy about. If we run second, we're happy that the speed's there and we have a shot to win, because that's all you can ask for. But it sucks to lose. I just hate to lose so much. I think I say that in a lot of interviews, but just losing sucks. Every racer thinks losing sucks. So, but then when you think about it, sometimes on the ride home we'll have the conversation that everyone else was trying too. Like, nobody else went there to lose. So, you kind of got to keep it in perspective that it's a tough deal.
Well, you certainly did not do a lot of losing in quarter midgets. You're quite successful, picked up a bunch of titles. So I guess just give us the Cliff Notes version of what your quarter midget days were like, because like I said, you had so much success.
Yeah, so pretty early we just ran around the club and stuff like that, and then got really successful at a club level. And then in quarter midgets, I feel like you definitely have to travel to get better, but if you don't travel, there's kind of some animosity there at the club, just because, like, I don't know if you know, but quarter midget parents are pretty crazy usually.
Oh yeah.
So
I've had quarter midget moms yell at me before.
yeah,
I've seen the fury.
right. So you understand what I'm saying. Usually if you're just dominating a club level, you either need to travel to get better, or it's kind of, there's some drama there. So we started traveling just to get better and stuff like that. But yeah, so then we started running at a regional level, a series called Midwest Thunder, and it was a pretty good series. And there's some solid guys that ran it. I think like Carson Hosevar ran it, Jake Garcia, some pavement guys that are having success still ran it, and it kind of shows that the competition level was pretty high, and it kind of, I feel like, made us all better in the long run at just learning how to race and a little bit of racecraft here and there. But yeah, so I started running at a regional level, and I don't think I ever won a regional championship. This kid named Gage Painter, forever, we went a whole year just running second to him. I could never beat him. So it's pretty funny that, and we were actually, instead of, like I said, quarter midget parents are pretty crazy, but instead of getting some animosity, we ended up becoming some really good friends, and we're still really great friends to this day, and family friends. And they live down in North Carolina, so when we went to Millbridge and stuff, we'd stay there. And so I never won a race to this kid. He beat me every time. I ran second. And then the next couple years, we finally got a little bit better. We got help from a guy named John Nervo. He owned a chassis company, and I became the house driver, I guess you can say, and ran for that chassis company, and then started going to a national level, and then Corey from Advanced Shocks and my dad and John Nervo had built this car, and it was specially designed to where it had two shocks on the right rear. So then we went on a national level and like went on a tear to where I think we won like 42 out of like 60 races or something like that, like just throughout the year, I think. And then ones we didn't win, I ran like second or third or something crazy. But yeah, we were really good. And then it was kind of to a point where it was time to move on. I felt like you learn all you can. I was probably 11 at that time. And, I was just getting to the point where you need to move on to learn more and obviously get up the racing ranks. So we were good friends with Zeb Wise and Chad and them guys, and so Zeb was getting out of micros, and he'd just been hooked up with CMR and stuff like that. So they were selling a micro, and then so we got that and ran ran that at a local level for a while, probably a year. And then Zeb the next year was selling his other car, so we bought that. So then we had two micros to run Outlaw and A class. So then we started traveling a little bit more so we could run classes and stuff like that. And we were okay still at that point. I don't think we were anything special. I don't think I really had started taking it super serious yet, just because I don't know. I didn't realize how serious you have to take racing at the time. Probably I was probably 12 years old, 13 maybe. I still wanted to hang out with buddies and do that stuff. And then I won a big race, it's called the Big Dance. It was 8,000 to win at US 24 Speedway. And yeah, since like I started taking the second half of the year a lot more serious, we went out and won the shootout. And then it was like, okay, like, I don't know. I just kind of flipped a switch and that's what I wanted to do. And then we got hooked up with Scott Petry at the time, and he put me in a midget for 2020. Yeah, COVID year. So COVID was going on, and we ran a lot of the USAC schedule, but not the full thing. And then a lot of the POWRI too. And we were going for Rookie of the Year in POWRI, but we were not planning on doing it for USAC yet. We're going to wait till the following year to do it. I didn't win at all. I think I ran second a couple of times, but I didn't win yet. The second half of the year came, I think PA Midget Week came around, and if I ran, I was ineligible for the Rookie of the Year, USAC Midgets the next year. But we opted to just run it just for seat time and figured that nobody really remembers Rookie of the Year. It's better to just get seat time. Yeah, that was my dad's motto. He said if you win Rookie of the Year and they're still talking about it in 5 years, that means you didn't do anything else. So if that just adds on to the story about my dad, but
it does.
So yeah, we ran then and then went out west and was okay out west. And then just I don't know. I mean, it was a rookie year. You kind of it's kind of what you expected and just learning. And my dad was on the wrenches, so it was his first time ever working on a midget. And yeah, just a learning year for both of us. So then I ran Chili Bowl for him and didn't do too hot. We found out later on that the front axle was out of square. So then it was still just good to go run Chili Bowl for my first year and kind of get a hold of the atmosphere. And then we ran the next year for Petry Motorsports and kind of came out of the gates swinging. We were really good, and I think I surprised myself and probably a lot of people just because Scott obviously had the best of equipment, but he just with KT focusing on sprint cars a lot and stuff like that, it was tough to really get a really great string of runs going before that year with Scott and Petry Motorsports. So when me and KT really, I mean, we put together a pretty good run to where just about every night one of us we're in the top 5 or on the podium or both of us, or yeah, we're just really good. And so then we had a shot to win the title or whatever, but just being so young, I feel like a lot of the bigger half mile stuff like Eldora and some stuff like that I struggled at. And it's tough to beat Keith, his maintenance program, and stuff never falls apart. So if you have a bad night and something falls off your car, it's tough to come back from that. So I feel like that kind of took us out of the contention to have a shot at that. And yeah, just then the second half of the year, Tim Clausen called, and I was able to go run at Gas City, and he asked me to run SmackDown. I was supposed to run just SmackDown, basically. So we went to Gas City just so I had a sprint car race under my belt. Yeah, we ran. Then we did okay at Gas City. I think I ran second to Jake Swanson. And, then Tim had kind of asked me to run Paragon, and so we ran Paragon as another tune-up. I think that was like the night before SmackDown or something, or a couple nights before, really close. And then we went to SmackDown and almost won the first night. It wasn't a USAC show, it was the Bob Darlin Memorial, I think. So I led a lot of that, and then I think Baloo and CV passed me. It was like 5 to go. So then from there, I didn't even know it was supposed to be a 3-race deal. I've said that a lot, but in a lot of interviews, but I just thought I was running for the rest of the year. I don't know. I never clarified it. He asked me to run, and I never clarified for how long or anything. He just asked me to run SmackDown. So then I ran SmackDown, and we had a solid full SmackDown after the Bob Darlin Memorial. We didn't do anything super special. I think we ran 5th maybe one night, and maybe 6th on the final night or something. But good enough that it was, a pretty impressive debut that, me and the team had put together. So then after that, we went and ran Lawrenceburg, and I qualified okay. Luckily, a lot of guys missed it, and I started on the front row. But then it was pretty juiced up and kind of ran around the top one end and the middle through one end, and was kind of just wide enough that I was able to hold off KT and until a tire went down, and then we had a tire flat, and was I think 4 laps away from winning, and that one hurt. But like I said previously about my dad, it's usually just about the speed that's there, and having a shot to win. That's kind of the biggest thing that we usually focus on, and sometimes just racing happens, and there's nothing you can do about it. Gonna go into the next season with CMR and Driven to Save Lives and C-Max and all them guys. Elliott's Custom Trailers, they asked me to do a full season. So then we ended up winning Rookie of the Year, but it was just a learning year. Just tough. USAC sprint cars are a lot harder than midgets, and everybody there races for a living mostly, and it's a little bit different atmosphere, and the age group is a little bit different, and there's a lot more veterans in the sprint car stuff, so it's just tough. So then luckily Tim gave me the call and to come around this year, and I couldn't be more thankful and happy to do it. So yeah, that's kind of my career, and yeah, just super happy to be with CMR, and hopefully we can keep winning some races here.
So you covered a lot of ground right there. Let's go back to the micro stuff. You talked about the big dance win at US 24, one of the bigger micro races, but then in 2020, you go out to the Tulsa Shootout, win the Winged Outlaw division, which is arguably one of the toughest divisions to win inside the building. And every driver kind of has 1 or 2 wins that really defines their career. And you've been really fortunate enough to pick up 3 Golden Drillers. But was that first one in 2020 one of those wins that just changed the course of your career?
Yeah, I think it did. I think it, not only elevated my name or whatever you want to say, put my name out there. I think it was also a big confidence booster with me, and that's something I wanted to do. I hadn't experienced something on like that atmosphere of people and just everybody wanting to win. And yeah, I think that kind of just changed it for me, and I guess made my bug a little bit worse and made it to where I wanted to do everything I could to become a professional.
I got to know, because we don't get a chance to interview a lot of people with Golden Drillers every day. What's it like coming back from Tulsa, Oklahoma with the driller in hand?
Well, see, it feels great, but at the time, back in 2020, that was like, I was a full-time micro guy at the time. So like, that was like my chili bowl at the time. You know what I mean? Like that was the biggest thing that I could have won back in 2020. It's where now it's like the shootout ones, they still mean something just because it's so hard to do, like it's hard to even put yourself in position to do it. So if you can put yourself in position, then that's something you should be proud of. But, now it's like, it's always something else, you know what I mean? So now it's like chasing the chili bowl. So it feels great still to come back with them, just to know you beat 300 guys. Like, no matter who you are and how good you are, that's not easy to do, even if you are miles better than everybody else. It's not easy to do there, and the format there makes it really tough and just a hard race to win no matter what. So yeah, it still feels great, but the grass is always greener on the other side. We show up to win and give it our all, and yeah, it just feels great to know you beat 300 other guys. But now I feel like I'm at the level where I should be trying to hopefully win Chili Bowl, and so that's the goal now, just because we've been a part of it, and not that the shootout is any lower or easier. It's just Chili Bowl is kind of the top of it's kind of in its own category.
I definitely agree with that. Chili Bowl is certainly in a rank of its own. One more Tulsa shootout question to harp on you. The last couple years, or especially this year, comes to mind. You've been able to start all 4 of the major divisions features. What's it like coming into the Tulsa shootout every year with cars in every class, so many cars in every class, to be one of the top guys in not 1 but 4 divisions?
Yeah, I think if you can run as many classes as you can, it helps you. So our first year we went out there, I ran 3 classes with 1 car, and which is honestly pretty normal. That's what a lot of people do. But I did that just to get laps, and yeah, it's a pretty cool feeling, and knowing that, I don't know, I feel like I'm at the shootout. I'm kind of at a point where if I'm in a race with a guy, usually I can just, I don't know. A lot of guys in the micro stuff, they get pretty nervous, so usually that's how you can beat them. Just because micros are so even that if you can just make a guy mess up or show your nose enough times that he makes a mistake, that usually that's how you make a pass or something like that. But yeah, honestly, I think running 4 classes just helps, and you have a lot. It helps the setup guys, and I've been fortunate enough to run for 10J the past couple of years, and they bring probably the nicest cars in the country there. So yeah, just been really fortunate, and pretty fortunate that my dad is pretty smart on setup and lets me drive a really good race car in that building.
So we now move on to the start of your midget career, and you mentioned Scott Petry and Petry Motorsports. How did you and Scott get together initially?
Yeah, so Scott kind of we knew Jerry Coons just because my dad, he ran with Nolan Racing, and with my dad running for Nolan Racing, they were teammates. So that's kind of how we knew Jerry, and Scott kind of was asking who should fill this other car, and who should we at least give a shot to. We can at least put him in for a couple nights and see how he does. And Jerry mentioned me, and or something of that nature. We kind of just got hooked up with Jerry, and he kind of put us in the right spot, or put us in the right direction of who to talk to and stuff like that. And yeah, just that's kind of how we got hooked up, and actually ran a couple midget shows back in 2019 at Jacksonville. It was just a local midget show. I think Dason was there, and it was Buddy's first midget race. I was there, so it's pretty funny, but just how odd it is that I feel like 3 of us were there, and they were basically our first couple nights in a midget, and I wasn't very good. I don't even know that I finished, but we weren't very good, and luckily they gave me a shot to keep trying at it.
The thing that struck me very early about you and your midget career is you just seemed to get it instantly. Like, you had that knack already for midget racing. Do you feel like you got the hang of midget racing pretty quickly?
I mean, I feel like I understood, how to drive the car. It was just, I didn't understand how hard you could run midgets, or how hard you race them. But I feel like I had the driving part down. I just, I didn't understand how hard you could really run a midget. And I think that's what honestly took me, what time it did take me to figure out. That was what it took to figure it out and get better.
Not to mention, too, your first POWRI midget win, along with your first USAC National win, came in pretty quick succession in 2021, after you said you started racing midgets at the end, I believe you said, of 2019 through 2020. Do you feel like you rattled off those first big wins pretty quickly, or did you feel like you really had to work for it?
Yeah, so I felt like it took a minute. Obviously, in hindsight, it really didn't. But when you're running every weekend, or you feel like you're running every weekend, and You're giving it your all and you're not winning yet. It sucks. Like I said, losing sucks. So, even if it's not that long of a time that you lose for it, it still feels like a while. But yeah, just honestly, my first win at Lucas Oil was a POWRI win. I shouldn't have even won it. Dason was leading. He was trying to go for his first win too, and he ended up wrecking, and I was kind of just in second and picked up the win. But I think that just gave me enough confidence that I could do it. So even though I didn't really deserve the win, it kind of made me think I deserved it. And in my head, I drove a little bit harder. So, it was just a confidence booster. And whenever you're confident, that's usually a good thing in a race car. And was able to give me enough confidence that the next weekend at Kokobo, we won a USAC race. And then I think ran fourth the next night. And, that was kind of where I felt like it really went up.
Another thing that strikes me about 2021, probably your best season in a midget to date, 2 USAC national wins. You mentioned that POWRI win at Lucas Oil. And I believe Richie's stat was from like the month of May to the end of August. If we ran that entire season in that time period, you would have been the points leader. You were pretty much competitive anywhere and a threat to win. At that point in your career, were you surprised with how well everything was going for you?
Yeah, I was actually. I was, but it's kind of like what's going on. I feel like right now in the sprint cars, it's just whenever you're going good, it just works out for you, and whenever you're going bad, it's tough to get it going, and get that ball rolling. But I feel like we just had a string of races where, everything just went my way, and I couldn't turn the wheel wrong even if I tried it. It just when I would mess up, it would benefit me, just stuff that shouldn't happen. It just happens just because, when it's going good, you're just on top of the wave and, it seems easy, but when you're trying to climb the wave, it's tough.
And you talked earlier about those first couple races you got to run for Clausen Marshall Racing. How did that deal come about initially? Because you said it was only going to be a couple races, but obviously it turned into something much more. So how did you and Tim get the ball rolling on that deal to start?
Yeah, I don't really know. He called more my dad, obviously, because I think I was just turning 17. So yeah, he called my dad, obviously, and I had another sprint car offer, but my dad, I was like, why would we not choose CMR? It's, in my opinion, it's kind of the best non-wing sprint car team, and debatably one of the best midget teams. And yeah, I felt like it was obviously the best opportunity, and we ran Gas City, like I said, and we were pretty good. And Tim he would just text me and be like, hey, do you want to run this week? And be like, yeah, why not? Never take the seat out. And I don't know, it was one of them deals that it just worked out so well that we never even really questioned it, or at least I didn't. He might have questioned it a few times, but he didn't act like it.
Was that kind of how your deal for 2022 worked out, or did you have to come into the shop, sit down, talk to Tim? What was kind of the scenario to get you in the 47 BC for 2022?
Yeah, I think we kind of planned on doing it the year before, like running 2021 and then running 2022, and I felt like if we planned on it and if we had a good enough season that it was just we were going to plan on running and sticking together and learning together. And he made it pretty clear that he's kind of sticking with me till I learned how to drive non-wing sprint cars, and giving me a legitimate shot at trying to win, and just kind of sticking to his word of what he said, and giving me a shot and trying to go win some races.
So you got the deal put together for 2022 to run for Clausen Marshall. And we head into Winter Dirt Games at Bubba Raceway Park. Just in general for the season, heading into Florida, what was your expectations for your rookie sprint car season?
I don't know. I didn't really have any expectations. I don't know. I knew we'd be pretty solid at Bubba just because I've been okay there before, and I've had a lot of help there from KT, and he's really good there. So I didn't really have a lot of expectations, but I figured the car would be good. Obviously, that thing's usually pretty good everywhere we go, and so yeah, I knew if I did my job, we'd be at the very least okay, and should be able to put it in A mains is kind of what I thought.
Well, I think it's safe to say in night one, you already did better than that. Your first national start as a full-time driver in the 47 BC, you go out, clean house, night number one at Bubba Raceway Park. Did it even surprise you how early that win came? Because I remember sitting in the infield and talking to people afterwards. I think everybody was surprised, but also not surprised because we had seen how good you were the year prior.
Yeah, I think it was a little bit of a surprise how dominant we were at the time, like how good we were that race. We didn't really get challenged or anything like that night, and it was just everything came together, like I said, and it was a great night, and it kind of worked out in my favor that I had just been really fast, and I think that was more of a surprise how dominant or good, I guess you could say, we were, and not necessarily that we got the win, just more that we didn't really get challenged for the win that night.
And I remember the number one thing that really stood out to me in Victory Lane is that you were thrilled that you won, but you were kind of dejected because the track was a bit one groove that night. And you said, man, I just wish I could have got out there and gone after it. You go out Saturday. The track was very, as you would have put it, go get it type of racetrack. So did the second win on Saturday mean more than the win on Thursday?
Oh, yeah, a lot more. It was just, I guess, the proper way. And, the first night was cool and probably a confidence builder, and, probably led into the lead or led into winning the third night. And, even though, like I said, maybe it shouldn't have gave me that much confidence just because it was kind of one groove, but it's hard to say stuff like that just because you put yourself in position to still win, even if it is one groove. So yeah, just gave me a little bit of confidence and led into the third night. And from there, it was, I don't know, we had a really good car and we were able to pick up the win.
The rest of the season, you were quick, went on to win night number one of the Western World out at Kokopah, picked up the USAC National Sprint Car Rookie of the Year. I know Joe probably doesn't care much for that, but I'm sure that was a good feather in your cap. Was that season really everything you could have hoped for in your rookie sprint car season?
Yeah, it was a tough season just because we had started out the gate so strong, and obviously we didn't expect to start out the gate strong, but when you do, it kind of changes the expectations and changes the goals a little bit, and I don't know, it's just I think we kind of underestimated how good everybody else was just because they weren't that great at Bubba, or we were just that good at Bubba that I expected to kind of just do that every night. Obviously that's not the case, but I think I kind of got just a taste of reality and how hard sprint car racing is and how good everybody else is.
Sprint car racing's been really good to you this year, Emerson, and in a lot of statistical categories, you are the best driver, which would explain why you're leading the AMSOIL USAC National Sprint Car Series points. You've only been outside the top 10 once. Where has the consistency been coming from for you and the 47 BC team this year?
I think it's honestly just kind of merging as one team, and the communication is really good right now between me and Tim, and we kind of just it's weird. We kind of have two different personalities, kind of a racetrack personality, and then kind of one that's away from the racetrack where we talk about other stuff. But at the racetrack, it's pretty much just business between everybody, and we have a little bit of fun, obviously, just because you have to keep it fun. But yeah, it's just we show up there, and I kind of only talk to Tim about the race car, and he only talks to me about what I need to do better. And from there on, it's kind of I just kind of do my own thing and go look at the track and stay as much honestly focused as I can and kind of worry about just driving. And I'm pretty fortunate about that. And I don't know, it's like I said, whenever it's going good, it's just hard to mess up even when you do mess up. But it's just one of those things that we're going really good right now, so hopefully I could just keep going.
And as I mentioned, you put yourself in a lot of great positions this year. Just weren't able to get the win before we went out to Eastern Storm out in Pennsylvania and New Jersey. But then all of a sudden, you come out swinging at Big Diamond, back it up with another win at Williams Grove. You go on to win the Eastern Storm title. Why was Eastern Storm so well to you guys this year? Was it just kind of one of those things where you're talking about where your team comes together? Or was there some outside factor contributing to your success that week?
Honestly, I don't really know why we were so good. Obviously the car was really good, and I kind of just did my job and put us in position. I don't know. I think it's just I've never really been or at least last year, I wasn't very good out there. And, this year I think Tim was really great on the car. And, I kind of just did my job and tried to stay really focused about driving and what I can do better. And I feel like I'm doing a pretty good job of just staying on point and doing what I need to do to put us in position.
And you talked about Big Diamond. That was a huge win, not only for you, but especially for Clausen Marshall Racing coming on Brian Clausen's birthday. So how special was it for you to be the driver to deliver that win, especially for that organization?
Yeah, honestly, it's pretty incredible how the night went. I felt like it was like literally everything went our way. It was pretty weird, but I just like I drew late and then I qualified on the front row, and I just one of them tracks that it's hard to pass, and yeah, it kind of went our way, and it was pretty awesome. I think I read that Tyler had done it too before, but I think he did it at Port Royal or something in an on-wing sprint car. I read, maybe, I don't know. I think I read that, but I might be wrong somewhere there. But I read Tyler did it, and yeah, it's pretty cool. And honestly, I was just honestly really happy for Tim and his family, Taylor and Di, and I'm sure it meant a lot to Richard and Jennifer too. And it was just cool, and the night went really smooth, and just really happy I could get it done for them guys.
And as I mentioned before, you backed up the win at Big Diamond with another one at Williams Grove, barely hanging on to get the win that night at the Grove. But was that win at Big Diamond the shot in the arm you and your team needed to really go on a tear like you guys have been on?
Yeah, I think Eastern Storm's just really tough, and I felt like a lot of great guys had rough couple nights. So, like you said, it really just gave us a shot in the arm, and I think that kind of pushed us through the second half of the week. That's just really tough, especially out there. It's just a hard week out there, and a lot of guys had been struggling. They were kind of, I assume, down on themselves, but obviously every night's a new night. But it's just when you can win like that, especially on one of them tours or week-long deals, that it makes the rest of the week a lot easier, and kind of just gives you a little bit of an advantage that you could get it done.
As I said at the very top of the show, you're the points leader with the Amsoil USAC National Sprint Cars heading into this doubleheader weekend at the Lincoln Park Speedway for the Bill Gardner Sprintacular. You've led the points and you've been near the top of the points before, so you're no stranger. But what's it like having the points lead at this point in the season where we're heading into Sprint Week and a bunch of other races that can really make or break your entire year?
Yeah, I feel like I kind of embraced it a little bit. A lot of guys get a little bit nervous about it or whatever, but you're at the top of the points because you've been really good. So I feel like it should be a confidence booster, but a lot of guys use it as kind of just a stress. Everyone's stressed out about it. So yeah, it doesn't really bother me. I don't know why, but I feel like if we just keep doing our job, we're here for a reason. So I feel like if we just keep doing our job, we should be okay.
Well, we're just about out of time here on the guest segment. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, Emerson. But one more question before I let you go.
Yep.
You've looked up to a lot of drivers throughout your career, and we have a lot of long tenure drivers on the national tour: Brady Bacon, Justin Grant, CJ Leary, just a couple that come to mind. And I'm sure you've looked up to many of those drivers when you were moving up the ranks. So what was it like to look up to them, and now today you are racing wheel to wheel with them every single night?
Yeah, it's pretty crazy, really. I remember my first sprint car race was like, I don't know, maybe like 2012 at Four Crown. That was the only time I really got to watch sprint cars, and I feel like that's kind of where I got my love for sprint cars, and because we ran quarter midgets the night before, the night of, at Little Eldora, the go-kart track, and I feel like that's kind of where I got my love for sprint cars, and just thought I found the best thing in the world, and just found a pretty cool race car that I wanted to drive.
Absolutely. Well, once again, Emerson, thank you for your time and best of luck this weekend at Lincoln Park.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me on.
That's Emerson Axsom on Non-Wing Worldwide. One more time, thank you to our guest, Emerson Axsom, for joining us here on Non-Wing Worldwide. Once again, I'm your host, Drake York. We'll get into our regular segments for the week, starting with our Racing Roundup segment. It's been a pretty slow news week one more time for non-wing sprint cars and midgets. The big ticket item, the Amsoil USAC CRA Sprint Car Series, have already canceled their Saturday event at the Santa Maria Speedway. Not sure the reason. The series did not give a update or a cause for it on their Facebook or Twitter pages, but nonetheless, no racing on Saturday for the Amsoil USAC CRA Sprint Cars. But once again, we do have non-wing worldwide stickers for sale in the USAC merchandise throughout the 2023 season while supplies last, and on nonwing.com. Speaking of nonwing.com, nonwing.com/TV has all sorts of non-wing sprint car and midget content, includes creators like us here at Non-Wing Worldwide, Teamez TV, Zach Pretorius, Todd Hobson, Martin Motorsports, and we just added this channel this week, a brand new channel. Braden Cromwell's BC4 Productions has now joined the roster on nonwing.com/TV. Let's now get into the final segment of our show here today on Non-Wing Worldwide. That, of course, is our upcoming racing schedule. And speaking of the race schedule, not only are we working to update the schedule with new races that have been added or races that have been taken away from tracks and series throughout the season since we've done this schedule, but also make it more user-friendly for you on the website. So if you want to check out what non-wing sprint car and midget races are happening not only in the States, but across the world. A lot of tracks in Australia have started to release their schedules, so we're getting to work on that right away. But let's get into this week's upcoming schedule. We are recording this on Wednesday, June the 28th. No racing scheduled on Thursday, June 29th, but on Friday, we got a lot of racing in store, starting off at the Lincoln Park Speedway in Putnamville, Indiana. It's a co-sanctioned show for the Amsoil USAC National Sprint Cars and the MSCS Sprint Cars. Central Missouri Raceway in Warrensburg, Missouri has the POWRI National Midgets along with the POWRI West Midgets. Lernerville Speedway in Sarver, Pennsylvania has the Boss Sprint Cars along with the Rush Sprint Series. Wagner Speedway in Wagner, South Dakota has the Western Iowa Non-Wing Sprints. Delaware International Speedway in Delmar, Delaware has the USAC East Coast Sprint Car Series. The Lee County Speedway in Donaldson, Iowa will feature the POWRI IMRA Speed 2 Midgets. The Rush County Fairgrounds in Rushville, Indiana has the All-Star Circuit of Champions TQ Midgets. Tulsa Speedway in Tulsa, Oklahoma will feature the United Sprint League. And Cedar Lake Speedway, New Richmond, Wisconsin has the Upper Midwest Renegade Traditional Sprint Car Series. And another busy slate of races on Saturday, July the 1st. Once again, the Amsoil USAC National Sprint Cars and the MSCS Sprint Cars will be at the Lincoln Park Speedway in Putnamville, Indiana. Lake Ozark Speedway in Eldon, Missouri has the POWRI National Midgets along with the POWRI West Midgets, rounding out a doubleheader weekend for them. Fremont Speedway in Fremont, Ohio has the Great Lakes Traditional Sprints. Pittsburgh's PA Motor Speedway in Imperial, Pennsylvania will host the Boss Sprint Cars. Miller Central Speedway in Miller, South Dakota will host the Western Iowa Non-Wing Sprints. Sandia Speedway in Albuquerque, New Mexico has the New Mexico Motor Racing Association Sprint Cars. Wilmot Raceway in Wilmot, Wisconsin will host the Autometer Wisconsin Wingless Sprint Cars. Caney Valley Speedway in Caney, Kansas will play host to the final round of the weekend for the United Sprint League, and Paragon Speedway in Paragon, Indiana has local non-wing 410 sprint cars. Sunday, July the 2nd will feature a small but mighty slate of races, starting off at the Interstate Speedway in Jefferson, South Dakota with the Western Iowa non-wing sprints. Angel Park Speedway in Sun Prairie, Wisconsin has the Badger Speed 2 Midgets along with the Wisconsin Wingless Series, and Lincoln Speedway in Lincoln, Illinois with the Badger Mara Midgets. And would you believe it? We got a good slate of races scheduled for Monday, July the 3rd, starting off at the Waynesfield Speedway in Waynesfield, Ohio with the Great Lakes Traditional Sprints. They'll be joined by the Boss Sprint Cars as well as the USAC Midwest Thunder Speed 2 Midgets. Kokomo Speedway in Kokomo, Indiana will host non-wing 410 sprint cars, and Central Arizona Speedway in Casa Grande, Arizona will host the ASCS Arizona Non-Wing Sprint Cars. That, of course, is a weekly series out at Central Arizona. And rounding out the busy week of action on July the 4th, happy Independence Day to everybody in the United States. At the Rush County Fairgrounds in Rushville, Indiana, we'll have the All-Star Circuit of Champions TQ Midgets. That is your upcoming racing schedule from around the United States this week here on Non-Wing Worldwide. One more time, a big thank you to Emerson Axsom for joining us here on Non-Wing Worldwide this week. But most of all, thank you, race fans, for joining us here on Non-Wing Worldwide, and we'll see you in the next episode.